by resuming the recording, okay? And then I'm talking about a while ago how to create our own customized exceptions, okay? So we can also create customized exception classes. No? Like in this case, we created here a class, no? We created here a class called salary not in range error, okay? So I would just want to check if it is being recorded. Oh, it's okay. It's recorded. So you can see here that the salary, this is the name of the class. We put it inside the class exception. Okay. So this means that the exception raised for errors in the input salary. No, actually, this is an example of a um, salary. No. So the user will input a salary, and if the salary is between the range 500 to 1500, no? Or 5,000 to 15,000, okay? So it will raise the exception salary not in range error, okay? So we define also an attribute of this class wherein, okay, the salary should be the salary, and then the message, we have a default message here, okay? The default message is salary is not in 5,000 and 15,000 range. No, this is the default message. We also use a super function, okay? Super function of the message. All right. So from here, you will see that if you inputted a salary, no, that is not in the range of 5,000 to 15,000, it will definitely say that that is an error. So you can indicate an error. So what is the use of customizing exception classes? You can create customization of exception classes when you are creating a program and you wouldn't want, for example, you are creating uh, uh, an inventory, an inventory for your computer parts, for example, and then the administrator inputted a negative number. For example, the number of mouse and keyboards are placed in negative 100 instead of positive 100. So you can create a customized exception like similar to this one, because you can actually create uh, a range, no, of the input, no, coming from the user. So this is the input of range wherein the user should only input from this number up to this number. If the user, okay, inputted outside this, it will raise this error. Now, what is this error? Salary not in range error or salary. Okay. So I'm going to give you another example. No? I'm going to use, okay, let's run this one first. So you can see that if I entered a salary within the range, there will be no error. Okay. But definitely it would be an error if it is over the range. No, you see, this is over the range, meaning the salary is not in 5,000 to 1,000, 15,000 range. Okay, you can also use this, no, as an example. So let's try to use this as an example. We can try to copy this one. No, for example, I'm going to create an error here. No, this is what we can call it the for the grades. No, for example, in grades, the grades should only be from 50 to 100. Okay, from 50 to 100. For example, we will call it the grade error. Okay, so this exception will be raised for errors in the input of the grade. This is for the teachers. For example, gumagawa kayo ng application for similar to ARIS, no, yung computation of grades, no. So yan, you can just delete this one, okay, and then this one is salary. For example, you can make it this as the grade, no, make it as the grade. You can change the, no? So definitely you can use this as a template, no. Okay, you can write here the grade you inputted, yan, is not in, let's say 0 na lang, no? From 0. Because the range of grade in TIP is 0 to 100. So, pwede natin sabihin from 0 to 100. Alright? So, let me just insert this. Okay. Something like that. So, self.grade, okay. So, we make it as a grade. And then self.message is equal to the message. And we have this message right here. Okay? So, now let's try to create input from the teacher. No? Enter quiz grade, for example. Okay? So, if not 0, and then this should be the grade, and then this should be 100, okay? It will raise the error, which is grade error. And of course, this is going to be the grade. So basically, if we try to run this one, you see we're trying to input now a grade quiz, okay? If the quiz grade is equal to 0, so definitely it will say the grade you inputted is not in 0 to 100 range because it's 0. So that means 0 is not allowed, no? 0 is not allowed, okay? So definitely if you want 0 to be allowed, so you have to put here -1, no? And you have to put here, if not -1, okay, until 100, so definitely it's going to be correct. So if you put here 0, 0 is okay, okay? If the grade is 0, no problem, okay? But if the grade is more than 100, for example, sometimes when we try to enter 100 and there are many students, we intend to put 1,000 instead of 100. So 1,000 is over the limit. So definitely to say grade error. The grade you inputted is not in -1 to 100 range. So this is a perfect example of what error handling is all about. No. So when you try to program, you can create this. No. And I hope I can see this in your program, in your final project. Okay? All right? So you can see here some steps. No? So definitely, I think this is another example of that. So you can see here that, okay, I think this one is a customized version of the ano. No, instead of ano, we created the method here. Okay? The method here will return the amount of the salary would be printed, okay, and the message, as well as the message, okay. This is the method that will be, so that means if the range of the salary inputted is not in the range, it will return the salary inputted, okay, and then the message, which is not in the range of 5,000 to 1,000, 15,000. So for example, if it is like this, it will say it is, for example, for only 4,000, it's not within the range, kaya sasabihin niya, 4,000 is what you entered, okay, and salary is not in the range of 5,000 to 15,000. All right. So are there any questions with the exceptions? Either they are built-ins or are they, even if they are actually um, customized or built-in exceptions? Any questions po? Before we proceed with the next part of our lecture. Having said none, actually there's no one here, who's answering. Okay, yeah, except Santos and Manalo right now. Okay. So thank you very much for the response. For those who are not replying, thank you also. So we'll now proceed with the next topic. The next topic is the GUI introduction. Okay, this is the graphical user interface. So every time when we try to write a Python program, usually we see the output. For example, here in the above program that we write, no? This is a simple program, okay, to ask the user about the salary, no? So there is an input part here, but this is not a graphical user interface, no? So what is graphical user interface? Graphical user interface is similar to the Windows version wherein we actually use uh, mouse and keyboard, and we use some objects, no, to create an object that has a window environment. And to be able to do that, we can use a lot of tools in Python, no? Like in this case, we're going to demonstrate PyQt5, no? Actually, we can also use another, you can use, I think there is a TK Inter, okay? This is a Python, okay? So let me just search it. You can use this one, TK Inter. Okay, you see there's a tutorial here. This is also an introduction to GUI with TK Inter in Python. No, this is a data comp. So this is an example here of the graphical user interface. For example, if the user committed an error, you will have to prompt this dialog box here. Okay. So similarly, we're going to do that here. No, but this time, if you are using a device without PyQt5, you need to install it first, no? So I installed it here in my laptop, okay? And then after installing, since it's already installed, I don't need to run this, no? So it's already installed. In this presentation, in the first part, I'm going to create the first OOP graphical user interface. This is a very simple, very simple window that I will show you. So how do we do that? We need to import sys. Okay, so sys is used for operating systems and the files and manipulations. Okay, and then from the module that we installed, which is PyQt5, now we will try to import Qt Widgets. So this is the module that we're importing, and we will use the functions Q main window and Q application. Okay. From PyQt5 again, Qt GUI, we will also use the function Q icon. Okay. Now, here, we created a class. Okay. And this class is what we call app. Okay. So, this is a class that we created from Q main window class. So therefore, this is only a child class that we are creating, no? You see here that we use the uh, initialization, which is the constructor. So this will be the attribute of the app that we are creating. Okay. So we use also the super function. So which means it initializes the main window like in the previous one, no? Yan. Okay. So it will definitely initialize the main window. So what are the attributes that we have here? The first attribute that we have here is the title, no? So the title of the window is first OOP GUI. You can see here, when we try to open a window, no? For example, this one, no? So when we try to open a window, it has a title here, no? It says Python 39, no? So if I try to open dev, that is the title. Okay? So yung gagawin natin dito na GUI ay this is only a simple graphical user interface dialog box, no? Yung simple window, no? Simple window, and the title of that is first OOP GUI. And then this one is used to, this function is used to initialize the user interface. So you definitely have to issue this command, okay? Now, in this one, okay, you can see that this is a method, no? So this method and attributes along with it inside has the following, no? So itong set window title na to, it will definitely place the title of the window that we created. And this set geometry For your information, these are the dimension of the window. Now, you can change the size depending on your need. Okay? But for the purpose of demonstration, allow me to use 200 by 200 by 300 by 300 window. Okay, this is just a small window, no, so that you can see it. Okay, and then I use a window icon. No? Each window has its own icon, right? So when you try to open this one, you see there's no icon here, but definitely, for example, this one, no, this web pages here that you see, there are some icons here, no, like Google in this case has an icon here. And you can see that when I hover it on the icon, it says TK Inter Tutorial Google Search. So when I try to click this one, it will definitely has an icon here. No, Jupyter Notebook, it's like a notebook. Okay. So this icon can be used no also here. No, like in this case, I use python.jpg. No, inside this notebook, no, here, inside here, I have an icon here. I have an image here called Python. This one is the icon that we will use. Okay. We can also use this one, no? My picture, CPE. Or for example, I'm going to use that CPE.jpg, no? So the icon would be my face. Okay. And this command here is to show you uh, the uh, the icon and the geometrical the attributes, no, set in this class, in this function, sorry, in this method that we have created. All right. Now, as you can see from here, what is this? No, this is just to run the program. No, if you fail to run this, no, for example, you delete that. No, you only do this, but you did not include this statements. No, this means that the name of the app that you try to create, not this one. No, this is the name of the app. If it is not included in your main program, this will not run. Okay? That's why you have to include the app that you created. Okay? And it will call on the Q application. Okay? You can see here we imported the Q application because this Q application will try to run the main program here. Okay? So you see the main program is written for our application. Okay? And then it will just issue the command exit, no, if it is closed, no, if the application was closed. So if I try to run this one, you can see here that over here you will see the window. No, do you see the icon? So you can see here the icon here is my face. No, so it's very small window. It's 200 by 200 by 300 by 300. The height is 300 by 300. And the width is 200 by 200. And you can see also here the icon, no? And of course, the title, which is First OOP GUI. Okay, so ito yung nakikita yung window na yan. Yan yung kinreate natin using these codes. Okay? Now, okay, another one. Okay, another example. Okay? So, let's try to close this one. Okay, you can see that there was an exception. Okay, you can see because we closed the program. Okay, we don't need the program to run. No. Now here, what we did here is to create another window. So actually, this is the second OOP GUI that we will create. So it has its own attributes of X, Y, width, and height. No. So this is the coordinates. Now the coordinates for X and Y is for 200 and 200. Okay, that means for coordinates 200 and 200, maybe you'll have to count 200 over here and 200 over here. That's going to be the intersection of the position of the coordinates. And the width would be 300 and the height would be 300. Okay, so basically it would be the same. What will be added here is this one, no? The geometry. Okay, So inad natin siya. So this one is coming from this self.x and then the title. And this is the title. And then this set window icon, basically ito pa rin yun, no? Itong mukha ko. And then what we added here is we put a line, okay? We put a line text here. It's a text box, okay? We put a line text with the coordinates of the following, no? 20 by 20, and then the text box that resize, this is the size of the box, 150 by 20, okay? So you can see if we run this one, okay? I hope it will run. But if it will not run, we need to restart the kernel. See, the kernel appears to have died. No, it will restart automatically when we click OK. So this is what happens when we try sometimes so maybe we can restart the kernel and run this one. Okay. Okay, let's try to run it. Okay, you see now that we created another window, but this time we included set this text value. This is what we call a text box, no? So this is the text box. This is a text box wherein we can write anything, no, on the text box. So it could be an input from the user, no? It could be an email address. It could be a username or a password, something like that, no? So another example. So let's try to interrupt the kernel, and then let's try to restart it again, okay, para wala tayong error mamaya. So what we add naman here on the third example is the button, no? Nag-add tayo ng button na meron pa rin tayong text box, okay? And then naglagay tayo ng hover. So ano ba yung hover? So when we are hovering to anything, no, using the mouse, like this one, no? You see the help text. So this is what we call a tooltip. Ito, nandito sa baba na to. Tooltip, kung ano yung pinrint mo sa tooltip, yun yung makikita mo. Like in this case, when I try to hover my mouse in this symbol, it says interrupt the kernel. When I try to hover my mouse, it will say run. When I try to open this one, open the command palette. Okay? So this is what we call a tooltip. So yan yung idadagdag natin. Magkikreate tayo ng tooltip. This one would be the content of the tooltip, no? And then we will create a push button, no, that says click me. All right? So kapag ni-run natin yan, basically, so these are just examples. You can also make use of it. Now this is what we have now. No? So we have a text box, we have a text, okay? And we also have a button, no? With when every time you hover your mouse, it has a tooltip on it. All right. So even if you click this, this has nothing to do with the program. Okay. So because this one is not yet clickable, so I'm just giving you some demonstration how to use your graphical user interface, and these are some programs or codes that you can use actually, no? Now it's up to you, no, when you create the program, no, especially yung project nyo, it's up to you to give values to this, no? For example, if I click this, it will multiply two numbers, or it will save the file, no? It will change the file, or update, or it will delete the file, something like that, no? So it's up to you to do that, no, because that is your final project. But definitely today you learn the basics of GUI. Ito lang yung pwede kong ituro sa inyo, hanggang dito lang sa GUI. So if you want to know more about it, since it's a project study or a case study, and since this is your final project, you have to search for your final project. All right. Now, what else do you need to understand? Finally, this is the final topic, which is the CRUD. Okay. So this is a demo on how to use CRUD, no, using Python. Okay. So here you understand how to create a database. No, we will create a database, and then we will be able to insert something inside our database. Okay? So you will be combining what you have learned so far, no? So your project should be a combination of how to use the file, Python file methods. You will also use the GUI, and then you will use the CRUD demo, no? This demo, you will use this for creating a database and how to use this for creating, reading, updating, and deleting files inside your database. Okay? So let's try to run this. Okay? So the first thing that you need to do to be able to use SQLite or to create a database is to import SQLite 3. What is SQLite 3? SQLite 3 is a database management system. This is what we call a very light independent. If you try to search for it in the internet, no, SQLite 3 Python, it is built in Python, meaning you don't need to actually install SQLite 3. No, you see here, this is a database API. It's an application programming interface which is used to interface SQLite databases in Python. Okay, see here some definition. Yeah, you see SQLite is a very easy to use database engine. No need to install. Actually, it's already installed in your Python. So you have only to import your SQLite 3. Now, to use it to create a database, you need to use the word SQLite. Now, here we have a handle, okay, the object that we will create. I use the SQLite 3 to create the database, no? So this is a name, this is argumentative, meaning you can change it, okay? And then the connect here, the connect command is used to create the database, okay? Now, what is this cursor? This cursor is used to interact, no? This is a command that we will use to interact with the database. So basically, a cursor is something that points to anything, no? For example, your mouse has a cursor, no? If you point this to this one, it will point to this one, right? If you point it to the other one, it will point to the other one. It's basically the same with database, no? If you have a cursor and you're trying to execute something, it will point to the location of the uh, the data that you would want to execute. So right here, we also created a handle, no, for this cursor, no, and you will see that the handle that we created, the object that we created for the database, would be the name of the object here, no, to use for the cursor. Meaning, we will have a cursor command for our database. Now you can see here a different format of actually, this is not a Python type command, no. This is what we call, no, if in case na wala pa kayo nito, since wala pa talaga kayo nito, this is what we call SQL commands. Okay, SQL is a standard query language that is used for database manipulations. No? Like in this case, no, if you don't have an idea yet, we can create a table, no? Since we already have a database here, we can create a table inside the database. Now, inside the database are tables, no? Tables that consist of columns and rows. So para siyang Excel spreadsheet na mayroong mga columns, may mga rows siya. Okay? So this is what we did here, no? When we created this particular database, no? Let's try to change the name of the database, no? Let's say the name of the database is project project.db. Okay. Kunyari, ito yung pangalan ng ating database. Okay? So para pag nag-create tayo, kasi may na-create na ako before na OOP database. So let's try to make it final project. Let's say final project.db. So that's going to be the name now of our database. Okay? Inside this, we're going to create a table. No? And this inside this table, the contents of the table are this. No? So you can see here the command is like this. No? It will execute the creation of the table if not exist. Meaning if it is already existed, it will not create a table because it's already existed. No? But definitely, inside this table, we will put some values of uh, the columns. No, this is what we call the ID. No? ID will be an integer. Okay, identification. No, we will use some values of ID, name, at saka email. No? Later, you will see this in a concrete example. Okay, but for the meantime, what we're trying to create is a table that contains three values. It contains ID, it contains a name, and it contains an email. It also contains phone pala, no, phone and password. So five values pala to. Okay? And then what you see here is the command commit. No? The command commit is used to execute what we have done in the created database. All right? So let's try to run this and I will show you what happens, no? So I have here, no, it's already actually it already created the file. No? So we can also run here. You can also run here print um, the database is already created. Yan. We can put that here, no? So when we try to execute this, so you see the database is already created. So how do we know that the database is created? No? How do we know? In Python, we cannot see it, no? But we need to download an SQLite. What do you want? In downloads, I have here SQLite Studio. SQLite Studio. I think this one, SQLite Studio. And you can download it, no? You can download it from, you can type it here, SQLite Studio. Tapos, click nyo lang yan. And then just download the Windows version. I think only in Windows, this one is only for Windows, no? I don't see any other operating systems here except Windows. So this is just this is to display all the created database in your system. Like in this case, we already created the database. How do we know that we have created the database? So we need a viewer, no? So right here, I'm going to delete all the database here, no? So, delete muna natin to para makita natin na wala na tayong database sa loob nito. Okay? And then let's try to run this once again. Okay? I will run this once again. Okay? So now the database is already created. So you can see here there's no database yet. All you need to do is to actually, when you try to click this one, here in the database, you can add the database, no? Or you can press Control+0. So you need to add the database that you created, and you need to go to the path of the file, no? I know the path of the file because I created it inside this folder, no? In my documents, and inside CPE 009, and the name of the file, or the name of the database is this one, right? Final project. So this is the final project. So I will show you. Okay, this is the database that we have created. This one, no, you can see that the icon for the database file that we created a while ago, just 4:18 p.m. Okay, so you can see this is the created database inside my folder. Okay, where the Jupyter notebook resides. And using the viewer, you can add this. You can click that one and click open. And then you can see here that that is the path of the file, final project.db. And this is the name of the file. Okay. And then you can just click OK. Now we have here the final project database. So if you try to double click this one, you can see that we have created the folder. No? The name of the folder is actually users. See here, users. And inside that, these are the created values, no, that we created. We created an ID, which is an integer type of data. You can see here, the ID is integer. And we assigned it as the primary key. Okay? We assigned it as the primary key. Meaning that any ID should not be redundant, should not be repeated. No? For example, if kung meron number 1, hindi na pwede magkaroon ng another number 1 because there's only 1. If there is number 2, there's no other 2 except that 2. Okay? So that is what we call unique values. No? Primary keys are always unique values. So because people can have different, can have the same name, can have the same phone number, for example, no, but they cannot have the same IDs. So definitely wala pa tayong datang nakikita rito, no. So kung titingnan natin, wala pang data, wala pa kasi tayong nilalagay na tao. But definitely in the structure of the database that we created, we already have ID, name, phone, email, tsaka password. Okay, what we're trying to do now, okay, we'll try to insert. Okay, so inserting means you're writing something inside your database. This is what we call the update feature, no? So update means you're trying to update the information from your program. Okay? So ang gagamitin natin dito is to use the database again, no? The cursor. And then we have here a name, a phone number, and an email, and a password. Okay? So these are the contents of the name. No? Jonathan, this is the phone number, and this is the email address, and this is the password. What we're trying to do here is to execute another command, an SQL command, to insert into the table users the name, the phone, the email, and the password. To the 4 values here, no? So bakit natin nilagay dito question mark, and question mark? If you remember in Python, no? In Python, we have what we call a blank container, no? These are the blank containers in SQL. Now, when we try question mark, this is what a container does. So, ibig sabihin, itong container na to is, this container is referring to the name. The second one is referring to the phone number. The third one is for the email. And the last one is for the password. So anything that you put inside the name, phone, email, and password, you put it inside here. Okay? So kapag ka in-execute natin yan using the db.commit, okay? Ayan, nag-commit na siya. Alright? So i-refresh lang natin yung value natin dito, yung database natin. So nakita natin yung data, walang laman, di ba? But if you try to refresh, this one is the refresh table. You can see now that these are the contents of the database. So we have here the ID number is 1. Then the name is Jonathan. This is the phone number, email, and password. All right. Now let's try to create another way to insert. No, this time, okay. We're trying to import. No, we're trying to insert users, the name, phone, email, password. No, for the different values. No, for the name, this will be the name. No, so let's say for the name, this would be the name. The name would be, for example, this would be the values of the name. No? For example, let's say Ben, and then the phone number is 0915-000-001 or 2. The email is ben at yahoo.com. .com, and the password, for example, is 001122. Okay? So if you try to commit that one and run that one, it says at Yahoo is wrong. There's a syntax error here. So what is the syntax error here for the password? I don't know where is the syntax error here. Okay. But definitely, this should be the name, should be the phone, and this should be the email. And this one should be the password. And this is another way to, actually this one is difficult to do. Okay, this format, or rather, but there is another way here. No, this is what we call multiple insert. Okay, this is better. No, you just have to create the values. No, like in this case, no, if I try to run this one, this will run. No, definitely this will run. And if you want to see the effect or um, the output of that, no, you can see that the name of Jonathan and the phone number and the email address and the password was repeated, no, but the ID is different. So therefore, this Jonathan is different from this Jonathan, although they have similar, but they are different because they have different ID number. The ID number corresponds to different person. Okay, in database management, you will understand that. Okay, now this is another way to insert. Now, for example, we have here James, John, Jonah. So let's try to put some names of girls. For example, this is Maricel. This is Snooky, and this is Ina. Okay, so these are the names of the girls, and then we have the phone numbers, and they have their like for example, they have their what you call it, the email address, and then the passwords. Okay, so this one should be different from this one, no? That we, because this one is execute, because we're trying to insert only one value, only one person. Okay, but here we're trying to execute many values, no? Many values of name, many values of phone number, email, and password. So what we're doing here is to use the command execute many, and then insert into users, same, no? Name, phone, email, password, and then the 4 containers. And then instead of using name, phone, email, and password, we can just pass the value of the users. These are the users that we have. Okay, so committing. So let's try to print the values are for example, are entered in the database. Yeah. So let's try to execute this. You can see the values are entered in the database, meaning we already have these users in our database. Checking back, refreshing, you will see now that there is Maricel, Snooky, and Tina. All right, with the following information of the phone number, email, and password. Okay, so if you want to retrieve, no, I have here the database. Now I want to retrieve, no, this is to retrieve the values inside my database. Okay, so how do I retrieve? So I will use the cursor, execute, to retrieve. So this means you are searching, no? This is the concept of reading a data from the database. So select the name, email, phone from users. So definitely, ang gusto natin i-display dito, tatlong item lang. No? Hindi natin sinama si password kasi syempre, it would be inappropriate to display the password. Pero kukunin natin yung data dun sa table natin na users. Okay? So, lagyan natin ng pangalan yung kinukuha natin na user. So, let's call it user 1. and then ipe-fetch natin siya. The fetch means, fetch one, meaning we will retrieve only one item, no, from the rows, no. Actually, we're retrieving the first row, no, meaning the first value that we can get. And that is the user number one, no. And the user number one is none other than this one, no, Jonathan. Okay. Here, there's also another way on how to retrieve. You can see here that I retrieve using a for loop. Okay. Using for loop, you can actually loop on all the items in the database. Okay, you can print the first item, second item, third item, which are corresponding to the name, email, and the phone number. Okay, so ayan yung pag-a-update o pag-select o pag-retrieve ng mga data. Okay, so when you try to access that, you can see now. Okay, now we have Maricel, Snooki, and Tina, no, for our multiple retrieval. So this one is single retrieval output. This is the multiple retrieval output. All right. Now, finally, you can also retrieve using user ID. So pwede tayong gumamit ng user ID. Like in this case, so gusto lang natin hanapin si user ID number 2. Okay. So what we're doing is to execute and select the name of the email and the phone number from users where ID is equal to blank. Tapos dito sa blank na to, i-call natin si user ID. Ang user ID natin dito ay 2. So alam na natin na si 2 ay si Jonathan pa rin, di ba? So ibahin natin. So gawin nating number 4. So sino kaya yung lalabas ditong number 4? So si user, if-fetch natin siya, and then ipiprint natin kung sino yung user na yon. Okay? So let's try to do that. Remember that you will use db.commit, no? Yan. Yan, si Snooki pala yung user ID number 4. Okay? So ito yung email niya, ito yung kanyang telephone number. So, kunyari, gusto mong baguhin tong telephone number ni Snooki. Okay? So we have a new phone here. So let's say the new phone here is, this is a globe, no? And then you want to change it to smart number. So, ito yung babaguhin natin, si user ID 4, si Snooki, di ba? Si Snooki yan. Okay? What we'll do is to update the users setting the phone to blank, where ID is equal to blank. So, anong gagawin natin? Itong blank at saka blank na to, siya yung new phone at saka yung user ID. Okay? So let's try to check, run first, and then check if we change already the ano. So we can actually print here if you want, no? So the phone number has been changed. Pwede nating i-print yan. Okay? Yan. Bakit na doble yung pag-print? This time. Yan. So the phone number now has been changed. So you can see here si Snooki yung tinitingnan natin, no? So ito yung kanyang old number. So pag ni-refresh natin to, ayun na, no? Nabago na yung kanyang phone number. Okay? Nabago na yung phone number niya. So pagka pinetch natin uli si Snooki, okay? So ni-run natin yan, ayun, nabago na yung kanyang phone number. Now, si Jonathan, dalawa siya, di ba? So, nakikita natin sa database, dalawa yung Jonathan. So, tanggalin natin yung user number 2. So, pwede tayong mag-delete, no? Using delete from users, no? So, i-delete natin to. Yung command na to, delete yan from the users where ID is equal to 2. Kasi tatanggalin natin yung pangalawang Jonathan, no? Yung user number 2. So pag chinek natin yan, tapos pinetch natin uli lahat, so wala na yung isang Jonathan. So kahit dito, i-refresh natin, wala na yung isang Jonathan. So makikita nyo wala ng user ID number 2 kasi binura natin, no? Binura natin yung ano, yung user number 2. Now, to implement what we have learned a while ago, yung paggamit ng try and except, no, as exceptions. So to be able to do that, we can create a database like this, no? So this is a new database that we will create, no? And then this would be the code to do that, no? And then exception could be to have a rollback, no? Ano ba tong rollback na to? This is a function which means we did not do anything on the database, no? Parang kung ano man yung ginawa mo sa database, it would be ignored by the system, no? And finally, ito yung finally clause. This would be to close the database. So kapag niran natin yan, makikita nyo, a database was created here. So i-refresh natin to para makita natin. O kaya mag-add tayo ng database. I-add natin yung database natin. Ang pangalan ng database ay db, di ba? db.sqlite. Ito yon. So makikita nyo rito, ayan, siya yung kinreate natin. Ito naman yung users niya. Similar, no? Doon sa ginawa natin. So ito na yung na-create niya, no? And meron siyang command na if you want to close the program, it will definitely close, no? So if you want to drop, no? Kung gusto mo halimbawa burahin yung database na to, so ano mong pangalan nitong database na to? Buburahin natin to. Okay? Pwede rin natin gamitin yung delete database. So baguhin lang natin yung pangalan niya. Yung kinrate natin na db.sqlite3, i-drop natin. So itong command na to, drop table, actually hindi pala mabubura yung database. Ang madadrop lang pala dito ay yung users table. So nakikita nyo ito, sa loob niya may table siya. Okay, ang pangalan ng table ay users, no? Pag dinrop natin to, i-run natin, ha? Ayan. Tapos tawag dito, i-refresh natin yung data. Okay? So makikita nyo rito, ayan, no? Oh, ayan, nawala kaagad, 'di ba? Automatic nawala yung kanyang table dito. Kahit na i-click mo yung tables dito, hindi mo makikita yung table. Okay, ayan, nakita mo may error na siya. Yung structure niya ito, pero pag ni-refresh natin 'yan, makikita nyo, ayan, no, could not process the user's table correctly, unable to open a table window. Meaning ito, hindi siya nawawala, pero actually wala na to, no? Wala na to talaga kahit na i-ano natin. Nag-e-error na lang siya kasi binura natin siya, pero actually wala nang laman talaga 'yon. Okay, yung database na to. Wala siyang table na laman kasi binura natin. Okay, dinrop natin yung table. All right? So that's the end of the lecture this afternoon. Okay? I hope that everyone has clearly seen how to implement the discussions, the topics that we discussed, especially yung part ng how to create exceptions, etc., and then how to implement that in a database to be able to apply the crude demo, no? Okay, so these codes are already in your modules. So basically, ito na lang yung hahanapin natin. Now, let me explain to you kung anong ipapasa nyo. Okay? Ito lang, simpleng-simple lang yung ipapasa nyo. I will create here a note. I think I have a notepad here already saved in the ito CPE 009 project. I'm going to display this one to you. If you have some questions, just feel free to ask your questions. All right? So this is submission of the project, no? So what you will submit, no? Ito, I will write here kung kailan kayo magsasubmit. They should be the same with the other section, no? So kayo kasi S4 ba kayo o S6? Okay. So ayan. So ang due date ng pasahan ng project is on the 19th, no? Although the exam is the final exam, no? Lagay ko dito yung final exam. Final exam June 15 and 16. So kung TTH, kung Tuesdays ang klase natin lagi or TTHS, this is for TTHS. Okay? And if it is 16, MWF yan. Okay? So ibig sabihin yung kabilang section, MWF sila. Okay? So sa final exam, as I announced, no, mag-online class tayo. Magsisynchronous tayo. Synchronous final exam. So halimbawa, our class is 1:30. So you have to be there at 1:30 p.m. no, to take the exam. Doon sa kabilang section, if they are for the other section, if their section is 8:30 o 8:30 yung exam natin, I would just try to repeat that these are only for these are only for the theoretical exam. Okay? Theoretical exam. Okay? So i-announce ko dito, note, there will be no skills exam. Okay? For both of the sections, there will be no skills exam. Okay? Why? Because your project, your final project, would be your skills exam. Okay? So yung sasubmit nyo sa akin will be considered as the final project. And the final project or skills exam would be 70% of the finals exam. So this means itong exam na to na nasa taas, okay, itong final exam, synchronous final exam, this will be 30% of the finals exam. Okay? So halimbawa, perfect kayo dito, o may 30% ka na. May 30 points ka na. So kailangan mo na lang makakuha ng 20% sa final project, pasado ka na sa sa final exam. But if you want a higher grade, so you have to perform better. Okay? Now, for the project, these are the submissions, no? The first thing that you will submit is the project. Okay, I would like to announce that the project that would be submitted, no? You have to put it inside a zip folder. Okay? You have to put it inside a zip folder. Okay? So what are the contents of the zip folder? It should contain the executable Python file. So that means you have to convert the Python file into an executable program. Right? An executable Python file. And then you also have to include your Python files or .py, or if you did not use .py, you use IPy notebook or Jupyter notebook, it can be, no? And then kasama rin dito would be the database, a created database, no? Okay? So kailangan yung database nyong ipapasa may laman. Okay? So you have to test your program. Okay? Kailangan may makikita na akong laman sa loob ng database nyo. So ito yung content ng zip folder, itong tatlo na to. And of course, okay, since wala na tayong tawag dito, wala na tayong presentation ng project, I would like you to create a 5-minute video. 5 minutes is the maximum, okay? So it could be 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5-minute video, no? Just a walkthrough of the program flow. Parang nagpe-present din kayo niyan ng project, no? What you will do is to create a video. Just walk me through on the program flow. Anong ginagawa ng program nyo? Pagka in-execute nyo yung program, no? Para mas maayos at mas malinaw kung maiintindihan. Baka mamaya kasi, pag open ko ng program, hindi ko maintindihan, hindi ko siya ma-execute. Mababa ang grade nun, no? So, i-walk through nyo ako using the 5-minute video since wala naman ang presentation. Okay? So, yan, medyo marami kayong gagawin, ha? Tapos, sa documentation, ito ay isasubmit nyo project, no? Ito yung project. Zip folder should be submitted on a separate link. So, may bibigay ako sa inyong link. Doon yung sasubmit yung zip folder na to. Ito yung mga laman niya. Okay? So, ano-ano yung mga laman uli ng zip folder natin? Number 1, executable Python file. Number 2, it could be the Python files that you use. Number 3, the created database. And finally, number 4, a 5-minute video. No? Or the walkthrough of the program flow. For the second submission, no, the documentation, no, the documentation, this should be submitted on a separate link. Okay? So, ano naman ang laman nito? Siyempre, documentation. So, Word document to. So, may cover page siya. Okay? So, sa cover page, meron siyang TIP heading, yung logo. Make sure na yung logong gagamitin nyo, yung square logo, ha? Bawal gumamit ng circle logo. Circle logo is for the president lang. Okay? For the president. Yung ginagamit nating logo is just the square logo. So you have to download the square logo from the internet. Okay? And then it should contain your project title. What is the title of your project? The members' names, no? So you have to include your names, the course and the section, the academic year, and the modular number. Anong number ng module ngayon? Modular number 3. Okay? So example, okay? Yan, yung mga pangalan nyo, kunyari yung title ng project, dapat nandyan. And then yung second page should be the table of contents. So sa table of contents, ang format ng table of contents natin should be, of course, the table of contents, this is an example, no? Kunyari, introduction. So meron tayong dot, and then page 1. No? Kunyari, chapter 1, page 2. Ganyan ang formatting, ng table of contents natin. Okay? Kasi yung iba naglalagay introduction, wala namang page. Okay. So, number 3 is the chapter 1. Okay? After the table of contents, you have to put chapter 1. So, the chapter 1 is the project introduction. So, you have to discuss here the problem. Okay? So, ano ba yung topic na gusto nyong i-solve? No? Ano yung solution nyo? Halimbawa, ang problem is about COVID tracking, no? Paano naging problema yon? So i-discuss nyo yun. And your solution is to create an application that can track COVID patients, no? So you'll have to include your introduction there, no? So that will be the first part. So lagyan na nga natin letter A. So ito yung letter A natin na topic sa chapter 1. And then sa letter B would be the objectives of the project. Okay? Along with the objectives of the project is the general objectives. Okay? General objectives and so ano ba ibig sabihin ng general objectives? The general objective of the project, example to, example. sorry. This is just an example. I think I write this as an example. Okay. This is the example. Let's put it here. The general objective of the project is to create an application that will automatically manage the inventory system of PC Corner Shop. Yan. Example yan ha. Ito naman yung specific objectives. Specifically, the project aims to letter A, create an OOP program using Python. So kasi yan yung kanyang that will implement, create, read, update, and delete. Letter B, to connect the program to a database, and letter C, to test the accuracy of the program. So that is an example, no? Yan. Kung iba yung topic nyo, ibahin nyo na lang dito, no? Pero yung specific objectives, halos pare-pares kayo ng specific objectives. Kasi lahat naman to, gagawin natin. Okay? So number 4, chapter 2. What are the contents of chapter 2? Yun yung mga project requirements ninyo. Okay? So, lagyan nyo lang din yan ng konting introduction. No? Tell me something about your project requirements. O, tell something about project requirements. So, make sure na lahat aware dito, ha? Okay? And then, ano-ano ngayon yung mga project requirements, no? So meron tayong dalawang klase dito. Software requirements tsaka hardware requirements. So sa example ng software, Python, database, Spider, Jupyter. So if you are using other IDE, it's up to you, no? So pwede nyo rin banggitin dito yung halimbawa, gagamit kayo ng PyQt 5, no? So pwede nyo banggitin dito yung PyQt 5. Yung mga module na ginamit nyo. Okay? Kung wala kayong gagamiting hardware, since wala naman ng hardware, tanggalin nyo na tong hardware. Okay? Okay, the third part of chapter 2 is the flowchart of the program. Okay? So after all of you naman know how to create a flowchart, right? So you have to create the flowchart of your program. And then after you create the flowchart, you need to explain. So I want you to explain thoroughly. Okay? Explain thoroughly your flowchart. Kapag may nakita ako dyan na flowchart na walang explanation, mali yun. Okay? Dapat may explanation. Number 3 is the last chapter, no? Chapter 3. So this is the content of the project. No? So lagay nyo rin ng konting introduction. No? Tell me something about this chapter. And then screenshots ng project. Para kayo nagki-create dito ng user manual. Okay? And then every time you put an image, put an explanation. No? Images, dagdagan nyo to ng labels, no? Dapat alam nyo kung paano mag-create, maglagay ng image, no? Sa proper documentation, lahat ng image dapat may label. Halimbawa, yung example, maglalagay ako dito. Example. Kunyari, may image, no? Saan mo siya lalagay yung image? Halimbawa, sa chapter 2. So, ang pangalan ng image, ganito, no? Chapter 2, image 1, tapos title of the image. Dapat ganyan, no? Example number 2, if it is in chapter 3, picture number 3, and title of the image. Yan yung tamang documentation ng image labeling, no? And then of course, kaya may nakalagay dito explanation because some of you just put an image without explaining it. Now, how will I understand what is that image all about? You can just put a simple explanation. It should be brief. No? Brief, just a simple explanation of what is that image all about. All right? And then, you have to put the screenshots of your codes. Just the screenshot, no need to copy your codes, no, just to to ano, kasi sasubmit nyo naman yung ano sasubmit nyo naman yung ano, yung sasubmit nyo naman yung inyong Python codes. So you don't need to submit the codes. Just create a screenshot of your codes. Finally, you have to put conclusions, observations, and recommendations. All right? Now, aside from chapters 1 to 3, you also have an additional chapter. And this is what we call the appendices. Ano ang content ng appendices natin? The content would be the references that you use. Kunyari, gumamit ba kayo ng books? Gumamit ba kayo ng magazines? Gumamit ba kayo ng web? Gumamit ba kayo ng tutorials? Okay? So, include nyo lahat yung ginamit nyo sa project. And then, the second one, na content ng appendices, it should be, sorry, it should be the evidences of the group work. No? Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo, lahat ng inyong meeting, no? Lahat ng inyong video conference, lagyan nyo ng screenshots. Kasi I want to see the collaborations, no? I want to see na kahit na nasa bahay kayo, kanya-kanyang bahay tayo, we can work together. Okay? So this is the essence of what we are doing here. Kaya kailangan natin tong mga evidences na to. Number 3 requirement, curriculum vitae of each member. It doesn't have to be a complex and full detailed CV. So ito lang yung content, no? Personal details, scholastic details, at saka photo, no? 2 by 2 photo. Digital photo to, syempre. Okay? So yan po yung content ng inyong appendices. So to, wala na to. Okay? So, i-copy paste ko to and then isa-send ko to sa inyong email. Okay? Isa-send ko to sa email nyo para lahat kayo ay masendan nito. Alright? So, ano na nga yung section nyo? You are S6. Tama ba? S6? Tama, S6. So, magkikreate ako ngayon ng email. So, it consists of the final project. Tapos, isi-send ko sa inyo to. Okay? Yan, okay? I think okay na. Wala na kayong question. May question pa ba kayo? Do you have some questions before we end our discussions?